one of my horrible memories from being a teacher. I was a kindergarten teacher for, I think, 12 years. And my first week of school, a little girl came up to me and was pulling on my sweater and said, "Miss King, my dad took my cookie." And I was busy. I I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." She, took the cookie and I just moved about my business. And then she came back again the next day and said, "My dad took my cookie and it hurt." And I was like, "What? Wait, what's the cookie?" And she pointed to her private area. And I didn't know the word cookie. I didn't know that
Mm,
was a word somebody used for their private parts. So I felt so bad because I didn't speak her language. She didn't speak my language. And we missed each other. And she had another day of that with her
yeah.
dad.
Welcome to the Kindness Is podcast, where we take a deep dive into the true meaning of kindness. I'm your host, Kaitlin Johnstone, the co-founder of Kind Cotton. Let's dive in.
Wake up.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Kindness Is pod. I am very excited because today I have Kimberly King, a mom of 3, author, and body safety educator, dedicated to empowering parents, teachers, and safe adults with the confidence to protect and empower the children that they love. Based in coastal Connecticut with her family and service dog, Alfie. Thank you so much for being here, Kimberly.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
I'm a mom, right? I'm a mom of a daughter who just turned 4, and things are so much different from when I was little. I tell this story. I've shared it once or twice about how I can remember when I was younger, my uncle, before he would leave our house, would always be like, "Oh, come on, give me a hug, give me a hug." I even remember very distinctly at one point, he put money in my piggy bank and for a hug. Yeah, very creepy, right? I mean, I never experienced anything beyond that. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
And I'm so, so grateful for that. But I can remember even as a young child being like, if I don't want to give you a hug, I don't want to give you a hug.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy that we have come into this world of consent and body safety and being empowered to say no. And
Yeah.
you have made an entire being and life surrounding this very topic.
Yes, and it's so important. I had a similar story with my Aunt Lavinia, who my parents would force us to hug like every holiday. And it wasn't that I didn't love Aunt Lavinia. It was that she was an old woman and she wore these wool suits and she smelled like, that smell of mothballs?
Oh, yeah.
And I just couldn't I couldn't stand it and it was tight and just blah. So, even though I told my parents I didn't want to hug her, they forced me to. And that is what is great about now as we learn more about like body safety and sexual abuse prevention. We know, and the research shows that teaching kids body autonomy and consent from an early age is how we keep them safe. And that includes not forcing hugs on anybody. So I'm sorry that happened to you and me, but you know what? It doesn't have to happen to our kids.
Yeah, 100%. My daughter knows so many different ways that she can say goodbye to an adult who she loves.
Yeah.
And sometimes she chooses nothing. Sometimes she'll choose a fist bump. Sometimes she'll choose a high five. And I think that's something even within our family, just due to the generation that my mom and my husband's mom grew up in. They were a little like, yeah, I want my granddaughter to be empowered. I want her in the future to be comfortable saying no to creepy men. I
Yeah.
want her to keep her body safe. But then when it came down to them specifically, it's like, but I'm her grandma. And I'm like, no, this is teaching her from an early
Exactly.
age that she gets to have the choice
Yeah,
in what she does with her body. And I think that's so critically important. So
it
tell us a
is.
little bit about how you became so passionate about this.
Yeah. Well, so in my story, my son was at a sleepover when I was in the hospital having a new baby, and I got a weird feeling that night that something was wrong. And in the morning, when I went to pick my son and my daughter up, he ran out and told me that he had a red flag. I had done a little bit of body safety, prep, just telling the kids just like one thing. If anybody ever touches you or makes you feel unsafe or touches your private parts, you would raise a red flag in your head and come tell me. That's basically all I said. And so he did. Now, coming right out of giving birth and then hearing this sort of report, and my emotions were all over the place. I basically had like a meltdown, tsunami, kind of like crying in the closet situation where it triggered a bunch of memories for me from my
Mhm.
childhood. So like an episode with a babysitter that happened, a near miss with a cousin, a distant cousin, and so I started to realize that this type of thing was happening from child to child. Okay, and nobody was talking about that. So I went about a mission of trying to heal myself with therapy and all of that. But I researched, and whenever there's something wrong with your child, you become like a CIA operative, and you want to like find the answer. So I joined Darkness to Light, and I started to learn and take classes from them, and then became a certified stewards of children educator, and just dug into the topic passionately and decided I had to write a book because there was no book out there that was kid friendly and would like give parents and kids these real situations, because it's not the man in the van. It's not the it's not
Yeah.
it's like 90% of this happens within our circle of inner trust. And now there is new research that says 70% of child sexual abuse happens from child to child. So that number
Wow.
has gone up so much in the past 5 years. It's almost doubled. So
I did not know that. That is new
yeah,
information for me because as a parent, you always feel, I mean, I don't feel concerned as much about the man in the van, like you were
yeah,
saying. I know it could happen. I'm not saying that
and
there should not be talks about strangers and
right,
all of that. Of course there should be. But I have always known that obviously these things typically happen more with family or family friends or people who are very close to your family. I
right.
did not know that piece about child to child.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the reason why that is coming to light now is, think about what our kids have just been through in the past 5
Mhm.
years. The pandemic, they're online all the time. They're able to access pornography. They're able to see things on Instagram and all that they really shouldn't see. And then kids, even as young as like 4 or 5 years old, are now like reenacting the things they see without even knowing that it's wrong or
Yeah.
even understanding what they're doing. Yeah, so it's a tough time to be a kid, which is why it's so important as parents to really engage in this topic early, so that you make it easier for them and you help them understand how to like navigate this difficult time in the world. I mean, this is a child sexual abuse is the biggest physical and emotional risk to children on a global level, so we have to dig in.
Yeah, that's really scary.
It is.
As I have a hard time sitting and listening to everything as
Yeah.
a parent because I feel as though, particularly over the past couple of years, I became a mom 3 months prior to the world shutting down in the pandemic,
Oh, wow.
and there just wasn't a lot of support for
Yeah.
first-time moms. There wasn't that community, and then we lived
Yeah.
very isolated for a while, which I still believe was very much the right choice for our family, particularly because research shows that your child really doesn't need anyone other than their family the first couple years of life. So I say,
Right.
if there was going to be a global pandemic, it actually
Yeah.
happened at the best time for my daughter, right?
Yeah, that was actually
Um,
good timing for you.
yeah, it was. It
Yeah.
was. Not so much for me, but
Well, yeah.
it was good timing for her mental
Yeah.
well-being and development.
Mhm.
So now I just think about all of the scariness within the
Yeah.
world, this being one of them, and it just being a different time. However,
Yeah.
I always try to look to the information that we have and the good of that because, like we just said, this was something that we didn't talk about when we were younger. So
Right.
the fact that we have these tools to prepare our children to be in the safest situations that they can be in, I think is definitely a plus.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping you can share with us what are some of the main things you would start to talk to your children about from the very
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I think the most important thing that any parent can do is, so when you get in that mode of fear and you're overwhelmed, like take it down a notch and go learn, go research, go find out the statistics and the facts and figure out how to minimize your risks. That's what my new book is all about, like empowering the parents first. So you can learn a lot and take a lot of preventative measures like right away. And then when your child is old enough to speak and understand language, I feel like that's when you start casually and lightly introducing topics like body autonomy and consent. You can do that when you're, changing a diaper. You can narrate your diaper change and like what a quick, normal, healthy diaper change from mom looks like. You can narrate that. You can, in the bathroom, you can say, is it okay if I sit next to the tub instead of just barge in and watch your child? There are safety concerns, but you can sort of mold and move that consent language in. Like, do you need help cleaning yourself? Can I close the door? Should I, asking those questions that gives them that authority over their body. Nobody did that when we were like when I was a kid. My mom would just like, come in, just act all like, I'm cleaning, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And that kind of deflates their autonomy, which we don't want to do. So starting early there, and then teaching the names of the private parts that's so important. Um, it aids in two ways. So they are just body parts, and so it really doesn't matter. The kids don't have any attachments to those words, we do. So we have to get over those words and just use the correct terms. Knowing those terms protects your kids. It helps them make a report if they need to.
Mm-hmm.
And if a predator is in the middle of grooming them and your child is all like knowing the anatomically correct words, knows body safety rules, and isn't afraid to talk about it, that child is not a good target. So you want to make your child an unattractive target. So just that alone, if you did those few things, you would be really going in the right direction for safety. And I do, one of my horrible memories from being a teacher, I was a kindergarten teacher for, I think, 12 years. And my first week of school, a little girl came up to me and was pulling on my sweater and said, Miss King, my dad took my cookie. And I was busy. I I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." She, took the cookie, and I just moved about my business. And then she came back again the next day and said, "My dad took my cookie and it hurt." And I was like, "What? Wait, what's the cookie?" And she pointed to her private area, and I didn't know the word cookie. I didn't know that
Mm,
was a word somebody used for their private parts. So I felt so bad because I didn't speak her language, she didn't speak my language, and we missed each other, and she had another day of that with her
yeah.
dad. So it's really important. And then the other thing about this body safety is if you take it in small pieces, it's not overwhelming. So like you don't have to just, read these books every day and,
Mm,
drill your kid on all these safety rules because they'll get scared. It needs to be more of just like a casual conversation where you introduce the topics and have communication, and then also empower your kids to identify their feelings and have that language to talk to you when they need help, when they're having a good day, when, communication is really important here.
yeah, for sure. I feel like we do a really great job, as I mentioned before, about consent and
Yeah.
also the narration piece of like when we're in the bath, we're encouraging her obviously to clean herself, but sometimes
Yeah.
she's like, I just still want you to wash me.
Yeah.
Right. And we always talk about like, the only time that mama or dada or maybe grandma cleans you, I mean, or touches your private body parts is when you are being cleaned. If you need help with the bathroom, if you need help in the bath, and we discuss those things. I never even thought about the importance of asking questions such as, can I sit down by the tub?
Yeah,
Can
just
I
little things.
yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's really powerful. I do always ask her now, since she is doing the bathroom pretty much independently. I'll
Yeah.
be like, do you need help?
Yeah,
Like, do
that's
you
great
want
too.
mama to come in or do you want privacy? And she'll tell you, like, I want privacy. You can come in when I'm done, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but the bath piece of it specifically is something that just like never came to mind. So I appreciate that. And I think that's really important. She is really funny because she will tell me, if she's like had a moment where she's angry and frustrated, and if she throws something, and I like pick it up and tell her not to throw something, she's like, but I'm in charge of my own body.
Good for
Kudos to
her.
you. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. There's that fine line where like the body autonomy can sometimes go south, and that, it's cute, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they
so
get it. They get
yeah,
that, yes, you are in charge of your own body, but you're not going to potentially hurt someone else's body too. So that's
exactly.
been,
Yeah,
a
exactly.
discussion as well. Tell us a little bit more about your book and where people can get it, because I know it's something that a lot of parents would be very interested in.
Sure. So the Body Safety for Young Children, Empowering Caring Adults, that's the book for grown-ups. And that is for sale on Amazon or anywhere that books are sold. I sell it directly from my website too, but I only have like 20 copies. So better to go to Amazon. And then my book, I Said No, A Kid to Kid Guide to Keeping Private Parts Private. That is still for sale on Amazon by like resellers, but it's going through a republish and a new edition. So you can still find it, but something new is coming in June.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm really excited because I get to like change the way the book is designed, and it will be more of a story versus a guide, which I think will help kids that are, in the age group of like 7 to 10 really be more invested in it. It'll be
Mhm.
little, they can maybe see themselves more in it. It follows to a brother and a sister as they go through their day, and it'll be cute. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, kids resonate so deeply with stories. So I think that'll be really impactful and important for sure. Kimberly, I think something that's really important that we should talk about is parents' hesitation to having these conversations. You know, us being in the line of work that we are and really being focused on providing inclusive books to kids, I have also noticed this narrative surrounding sex ed and that being dangerous, or perhaps talking too much about private body parts or keeping children safe, because then that may open up kids' minds to sex. Just all of this
Uh,
nonsense going
yeah,
on that's actually not going to protect children,
yeah,
but folks kind of think like they are protecting children.
yeah.
Is that something I would imagine you've experienced?
Yeah, I hear that all the time. And so I think parents with so many good intentions get stuck in this one place where they think that body safety is literally sex ed. And in my book, I said, no, we don't mention anything having to do with sex or sexuality or any of that. We're talking about identifying feelings. We're talking about who safe adults are, and we're talking about knowing the correct terms of your body parts. That's it. And if you don't have that, your kids are more likely to have issues with what comes next. It's so important for parents to talk about sex with their kids when they feel their children are ready. I talked with my kids about this when they were 5 at an age appropriate level. You don't want to, horrify your kids with too much information,
Yeah.
but you don't want to give them nothing and tell them stories about like the stork coming in with babies either. Like we're
Yeah.
humans, we have a reproductive system, you know it's normal information. It just has to be introduced in an age appropriate way. Body safety is not that. It's like the building blocks of body autonomy, of consent, of body rights, and how kids can communicate their needs and let people know when they feel unsafe. Anybody who doesn't want that in their schools, in their state, in their, you got to wonder about them, because that just protects children. It's just all about safety and nothing else. And I do encourage parents to actively talk about these things and sex ed, because if you don't talk about sex ed and your school doesn't talk about sex ed, then you could have a child like me who rolls up at college knowing absolutely nothing, and that puts you in a huge risk category for some very bad things. And you don't want to send your kid away to college knowing nothing and not knowing how to navigate situations that are very complicated and difficult when they get to college. So it's important. It's very important.
Yeah, it definitely is. Why do you think that it gets so misconstrued? Do you have
Well,
any
I
thoughts
think,
surrounding that?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the media and the news, you just turn on the news and every day it's like a terrible thing. A teacher did this person's a pedophile, 150 children were abused and then nobody follows up with the what can we do? Or
Mm,
how do we keep our kids safe? And then it's weaponized. The whole sex ed topic is just weaponized to pit people against each other and it takes away from the focus. And you know what? I think most people, when you really think about it, the most important job you have as a mom is to keep your children safe. And if body safety and sex ed is going to help you do that, then you got to do that. It's just
yeah,
that simple.
I
Yeah.
could not agree more. And it does all get it does all get to the point of like pitting each other against one
Yeah.
another and misinformation, right? Like I can't
So
even tell
much.
you how many times we have been called horrific things for
Yeah.
simply sharing the book The Family Book by Todd Parr, which states some families have two moms, some families have two dads, some
Yeah.
families have a grandma and a grandpa, and it's really unfortunate
It
because
is. It's so sad. And the other thing is like companies, businesses, they also sexualize everything and our
mm,
kids absorb it. So like on Netflix, there's this show called Battle Kitty. I hope you haven't
mm,
seen it, but
no,
it's a sexualized cartoon for children and it's targeted to like 4 to 8 years old. And
no.
it's full of like bleh. Go look at it just to see,
Okay.
but I mean, there's so much of that, and like fashion industry and the Balenciaga. I don't know if you saw that situation last year, but like our kids are absorbed, especially when they're over the age of like 8. They're on the phones, they're on the tablets, they're
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
absorbing all this material, and if nobody is countering it, then they're going to take it in, and it's going to change how they view the world, how they view themselves, and we've got to really build them up and empower them. So,
Yeah, 100%. Along with all the consent stuff every day. I mean, I notice even at the age of 4, my daughter will say certain things, which is like totally normal, right? Like
yeah.
something like I can't draw or
Yeah.
those can'ts, but every day we do our affirmations in the
Yeah.
mirror. And I'm like,
Oh, I love that.
even if you don't want to do it, like we're doing it because you are strong and you are beautiful and you are smart and you are capable. And then at the end of those affirmations, we always say, I love my body, I love my mind, and then I
Oh,
am in control of my body.
oh my God, I
And
love that.
I mean, I want to hope that it will make a difference. I don't
Oh,
know,
I'm
but
sure it will. I'm sure it will. I mean, parents need to do more of that. It's why I can't take a compliment to this day because I still have like like things in my head going from what I heard, and I'm like, I have a hard time with it. That's so good. That's probably the key right there.
yeah, I think it is important. And to go off of complimenting you, I'm just so grateful that you are doing the work that you are doing because as a parent who cares deeply as we all do about keeping our kids safe, I commend you for putting the work into this and creating resources that we all can benefit from. So thank you.
Thank you. So welcome. I'm so glad to be here and give these resources out. I also have a Body Boss boot camp, which I'll share with you after, which is like me teaching my I Said No book to like a kindergarten type of child. And it's engaging and fun and like even makes the topic easier if you're too scared to read the book. It's like a quick little class. It's just fun and light and is a good place to start. So I'll share with you that later and you can share with
Yeah,
your
and I can put
audience.
that in the show notes for sure in
Perfect.
case anyone else is interested in that. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Before we go, I would love to know what your definition of kindness is. I think we've talked a lot about it throughout this
Yes.
body autonomy. I mean, I think there's so many links to what kindness is in your
Uh,
world, but I'd love to hear it from your
well,
perspective.
it's kind of like that. It's like a quiet, unsaid way to spread warmth and gratitude. And for me, I also have to use that concept on myself because I go about my day I try to help one person out every day. And hopefully I help more than that. but I frequently don't take the time to be kind to myself with my thoughts. And so taking a minute to just have some positive thoughts and some warm generosity with my own mind. And then it's like on the airplane, you put the oxygen on you
Mhm.
first before you. So, like doing that first and then sharing your kind moments. And it doesn't even have to be words, it can just be, I find myself at doctor's offices frequently with parents in similar situations than me. And sometimes just sitting next to somebody and just looking at them or saying, how are you doing? Can I
Yeah.
help? I think the kindest thing anybody has ever really done for me is in a time of crisis, a stranger. It's a kid story, but I was in an airport, going from Oregon to Connecticut or something, and we had a major diaper illness disaster, and I was alone, single mom with 3 kids in this mess. And this grandma came up to me and just put her hand on my shoulder and said, "Honey, let me help you." And I didn't even know her, but I was like, yes. I think
Mm,
sometimes people just are put in your path in that quiet, silent way, and thank God for that. Like that
mhm.
sometimes is so needed. And we need more of that in the world right now, especially just really focusing on that.
Yeah, being
How
there
can you
for you.
help?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really powerful story. I love that. Thank you for sharing it. So, Kimberly, again, thank you so much for being here. Anyone who is listening, please go and check out her books. Be on the lookout for her book that is coming out in June. I think that's going to be amazing. And remember, don't be scared to talk to your kids. And if you are, there are people like Kimberly who are here to help. So I know episodes like that aren't always what we want to hear, but it's also what we need to hear, particularly as caregivers and doing what is best for our children and providing them with as much safety and security as we can. Once Kimberly and I hopped off the call, she so graciously provided our listeners with a code for her body safety boot camp, which is particularly great for children 4 to 6 years old. So if you check it out, it is linked in the show notes. You can use code KIND and you will essentially be getting this incredible course for the cost of a book. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Kindness Is podcast. If you love it and it's adding even a little bit of value to your life, we would love, love, love if you could subscribe, rate, and review so we can reach even more people and make this world a little bit more kind.